Oh boy, do I have a good one for you guys today. So I was perusing around the depths of the thetagang Reddit looking for any nuggets of knowledge, and I came across this post from some guy named Dan whose strategy is actually pretty similar to the strategy that made me over 2 million in profit in 2024. So let me read some of it for you. Here we are in thetagang Reddit, and Trader Dan, who's a top 1% commenter, titled this post, "Turned 20K into 43K in 12 months selling strangles. Here's how I did it." Okay, so let's just look at this title. So 20K, that's a pretty small account. He over doubled it in 12 months selling strangles. So this is obviously in my wheelhouse. So anyway, here, let's see what he says. So he says he accepted the challenge to show people what could be done. He opened a brand new account with 20,000, real money, not paper, in case you were worried, bro, on August 1 of 2024. And he's saying here that he's only selling short strangles on liquid futures. Now, if this is all gibberish, don't worry, I'm gonna cover this, but he's selling short strangles, which is essentially selling an out of the money put and selling an out of the money call at the same time, collecting premium on both sides and so forth. So anyway, he says here, no chasing home runs, no hero trades, just consistent setups and disciplined exits, bro. Not to mention, Trader Dan here clearly ChatGPT'd this, because this right here is straight out of ChatGPT with this double dash and him saying no chasing home runs, no hero trades. But anyway, the third tip here from Dan is he's tracking every single trade in great detail. I can agree with that. I promote the same knowledge, but here's the kicker. According to Dan, he did all of this while working a full-time job. This style is perfect for that because it doesn't require me to stare at the charts all day. Very good sentiment. That is true. So what does his process actually look like? So he's picking trades with 30 to 60 days till expiration. This is kind of classic advice in the option selling space. The strikes are about 10 delta wide on each side, wider if the volatility was high. Avoid stacking correlated trades. That's not going to be as relevant to what I'm going to talk about. Never use more than 40% of your margin account at once. And he's taking profit at 30 to 50%. So remember that. So he says here 89% win rate and 118% total return. So the essence of Dan's strategy is essentially selling 10 delta strangles, 30 to 60 days till expiration on things like natural gas futures, then exit the trades at 50% profit. This is bread and butter. 40-year-old data and analytics dork, avid tasty trade viewer, corrects you when you misspeak type of guy advice. But don't worry, because I am going to spice it up. So hang with me. If you're currently of that category of people who are slogging away at a job but want an extra 3 to 5K profit per month through trading. Now, if you aren't familiar with what the I'm talking about, or what a 10 delta strangle is, don't worry, because I'm going to simplify this all when I break it down in the actual whiteboard. So what do I actually think about Dan's strategy? So generally speaking, I agree with this concept of selling really wide, high probability strangles, but personally, I like to perform this strategy on more volatile, higher IV stocks that do not require me to enter a million contracts to make money. And also it gives me the opportunity to turn the trade into a defined risk, defined reward iron condor, especially for those of you out there with a small account. Furthermore, if you are trading a smaller account, like a $20,000 account, you're very limited on what stocks you can actually sell a strangle on, because you're naked on both sides, meaning you need a ton more capital and can end up short or long the stock, which could blow your entire account with one bad move if you get assigned.
I told you.
However, if you're trading more expensive, higher IV names, like I'm suggesting, something like Coinbase, MicroStrategy, etc., you can actually use Dan's same logic, but turn the trade into an iron condor, so it's limited risk on both sides. And since IV is so high, you can have your selling strikes still at a really low delta, high probability strike price, and then you can add your protective legs of the condor and still collect a great premium and more easily hold that till expiration and realize the full 100% gain, since you're not naked on both sides and exposed. Okay, so that was a ton, right? I'm talking fast. That was a lot of jargon. So before I lose you, let's just hop into the whiteboard and break down the strategy I'm talking about very simply so you can see it on paper and implement it this upcoming week. By the way, my name is John and I run the fucking best option selling community in the game, Option Lab. I did over 2 million in profit in 2024 with strategies like this, and I've literally helped hundreds of others escape the depravity of doom scrolling social media for trading advice and turn them into elite option selling fucking killers. So if you are possibly interested in being accepted to Option Lab, you can apply to work one-on-one with me in the link in the description, theoptionlab.com, by booking a call with me. But anyway, you're going to want to hear what I'm about to say, so lock the fuck in. Okay, we are live on the whiteboard, and as you can see here, I have side by side the two different methods. We're going to talk about Dan, the original poster's method, and then my variation of this method, which I believe is superior for those of you who are working with maybe less capital. Okay, so we're going to hop in. I'm going to explain how to enter each, and then the pros and cons, and then we'll kind of compare. Okay, so Dan's method is he's trading things like natural gas. So what he's doing is he's looking at the chart, and let's just say that /NG is trading at 50. What he's doing is he's simultaneously selling out of the money calls right here. So the stock's at 50, out of the money would be 60. He's selling 5 out of the money calls and 5 out of the money puts. And for doing so, he collects a premium on both sides. And the criteria for profit here would be that the stock stays below 60 and above 40 by expiration. And as long as that happens, he keeps the premium and he does not get assigned on either side. Simple enough. And that would be what we would refer to as a strangle. Now, I'm simplifying this, but we'll go into the pros and cons. So what are the pros of this strategy? The pros are it's a safer stock, right? So natural gas is not going to move as much as something like Nvidia or Tesla. So typically, more times than not, that stock is going to stay between, I keep saying stock, but the underlying is going to stay between his two strike prices, the 40 put and the 60 call, therefore collecting both premiums. The second pro is going to be he's actually going to collect a little more premium, and that's because both sides are what's considered naked, meaning there's no protective legs on the outside. So for selling to open, he's keeping that full amount of premium from both the calls and puts, and he's not having to pay out any debits for protection, so he's actually going to collect a little more premium. The other pro of the strategy is going to be it's a little less volatile, right? Because NG is not going to move as much as some of the more volatile names. So like I said, more times than not, it's going to stay between both strike prices. Now, the cons of the strategy is, one, that's going to require more buying power. Why is that? Like I said, if this underlying goes below 40 by expiration, well, Dan here is now going to have to buy 5 or 500 shares at his strike price. So if you have a small account, this is going to tie up capital really quick. And if that really drops, it can really put you in danger in a smaller account. Similarly, if it spikes like crazy and you end up short 500 shares, you can now get burned on the upside. So that's a lot of buying power for a small account. And second con here is longer expiration. Remember that Dan said here 30 to 60 days till expiration. That's a pretty long time to wait. Personally, I think that you can collect more premium quicker on these higher volatility names without having to wait that long. But anyway, so third is going to be this is an unlimited risk strategy because both sides are unprotected. This means if NG goes to 200, you're now completely burned because you are short shares at 60 and the underlying is now at 100 or 200. Similarly, if it goes to 0, you're now burned and your whole small account is gone. So let's go into my method, which if you see actually looks pretty similar in this respect with one added addition, and that is the 2 protective legs added on to our sandwich here, right? So we have the same sandwich where we're selling these 2 legs, and I'm just using Coinbase here because that's going to be an example of a more higher priced, more volatile, higher IV stock. And what we're seeing here is we're doing the same thing. We're selling an out of the money call and selling out of the money puts, but we're adding in 2 legs on either side. So buying the 255 puts and buying the 345 calls. This is going to create this into 2 defined risk, defined reward spreads, which you'll still collect a net credit for both of these. And it's the same criteria of making full profit where the stock can essentially just stay between your 2 sell legs and you collect full premium by expiration without having that massive risk on either side. and that would be what we call an iron condor. So the pros of that, like I said, it's going to be defined risk as opposed to Dan's method, where if this stock goes crazy in either direction, you're not going to get assigned and have your entire small account tied up in an underlying that you don't necessarily want to own. So number 2 of the pros of my strategy are there more stocks that you can do this with, right? Because since you're adding in the 2 legs, this is going to create a net credit situation where these are going to offset each other. So since you're not exposed in an unlimited fashion, you can basically do this on any underlying stock without requiring a ton of buying power. Number 3 is its higher implied volatility on these type of names like Coinbase or Nvidia, where the premium you're going to be getting, you can still, sell far out of the money, high probability options. And since the IV is higher on these names and you don't have to do something really, a stock that's really cheap, you're still going to collect a lot of premium for going pretty far out of the money. The last pro is going to be I'm using shorter expirations. So for me, I'm using 7 to 14 DTE. This limits the time that I'm exposed to these more volatile underlyings and allows me to collect and get in and out of positions faster. The cons of my strategy, there's more swings in the stock, right? So things like Coinbase could move like crazy, but like I said, that's offset because we buy protection on both sides. The second one is going to be, it's a little lower premium, right? Because I'm having to pay debits for these 2 legs, which are going to offset that premium that I'm collecting from the puts. But still, the amount of stocks that this opens you up to kind of offsets that con. The last con is going to be there's more parts to the trade. So for a beginner, this is going to be a little bit more complicated, especially just looking at this. If you're not familiar with these different strategies, there are a lot more moving pieces to this trade, but once you get used to it, it is literally no problem. So if you have made it to this part of the video and you want to download my option selling cheat sheet and book a 30-minute call with me to work one-on-one with me in Option Lab, I've literally talked to probably like 10, 20 people this week who have all been really great, and I've been trying to be the most helpful I can be to you guys. So looking forward to chatting with some of you. Link is in the description, theoptionlab.com, and I hope you guys found this video helpful. Peace.